Alright, so welcome back to another guide on this channel, and this one we need to talk about the Vitalizer. This is just a great plugin that you can use to get a little bit of shine out of your track or any individual track. And how it works is very simple, but it's divided in different sections, and it's a bit weird at sometimes because it's an EQ mixed with a little bit of compression, mixed with a little bit of stereo whitener. So yeah, that's why I'm of course making a tiny guide about this one. So everything, again, is divided on different sections, and you have three main sections, which is this one right here, and then you get the expander. And everything you do on each section will affect the other one. Okay, so let's just start with the plugin, and first we need to cover this before we can move forward to the next section. Now, when you bring the plugin on the default state, it will do nothing until you move some knobs, and the most important knob that it will do something is going to be this process. So I get a tiny track, and if I play it, let me just maybe go at the beginning. So this is the track. It's a good track, it's a tiny clip, and I'm choosing this one because we have a lot of bass, so we can hear what we are doing right here. So as soon as I turn it off, we can hear that there's no change at all. And when you start doing process, you can hear that something is going on, right? And right now it's just super dull. Okay, so yeah, the process, this knob is very important because it will kind of apply whatever it is that you're doing right here. So the first control is going to be this one, the bass, and then the compression will work depending on what you do on the bass. And then of course the process will apply what you're doing right here. So I'm going to go and just play the track, and as soon as I go up and go down, you're going to notice the difference. So when you go up, you're going to be getting kind of a tight bass sound, and if I go down, you're going to get a more round kind of a sound. So I'm going to go right there and just going to be doing a little bit of play. And I'm going to start doing a little bit of processing, and I want you to listen to the bass. Now, if I go right here, notice that the bass section now loops. It sounds not that aggressive. It sounds very kind of a mild, controlled. That's why it's called tight in this case. Now, if I go back, notice that we can get that bass now. And if I go to the soft side, so we can hear a lot of subs. So okay, so how this works is that when you go to the tight, you're boosting around 50 and 100K, but when you go to tight, it will high pass the subs. That's why when you go right here and you're doing this, you just don't get a lot of low end. It's because you're cutting. And the boost is just very mild. Now, on the other way, if you go to the other side, it's just going to do the opposite. It will boost around 50-ish, but it's not removing the sub information. So it's boosting that part. That's why we hear a lot of subs. And right in between, it's just not doing much. It's going to do a tiny cut. All right. Now, of course, since we are messing with the bass, this is essentially an EQ. This will boost and will cut some frequencies, but essentially it will boost. So that's why you get a compression. So when I do play, I'm going to go right there, and I'm going to go to the soft side because we are going to see that this is just going up. So if you go up in the compression, this kind of will help you to control whatever boost that you're doing. And essentially you're doing compression, and you can see right there the light of how much gain reduction you're doing. If I go all the way up, you're just compressing a lot. Notice that we don't get a lot of subs. Let me go back. If I go down, we hear the subs. So yeah, this kind of helps you to control that boost that you're doing right there. That's why you get the compression. So this both knobs work together in this case. Right, and if you go to process and you do a little bit more, you're gonna get more, of course. Right. Now, in a minute, we're going to get a visual representation of these controls are doing. I'm going to bring the plug inductor and just show you what they do. Now, before we do that, I want to talk about the mid-high tune. And what it does, it's just going to do that. It will add. If you go towards the 22, it's cutting some of the super high frequencies because this is a high shelf, but you get a boost right there. Now, if you start doing this on the 22, you're just kind of a boosting air. You're not going to get a lot. So you're pretty much kind of disabling this control. Now, for now, I'm just going to go right here to the mid and do nothing right there. And if I do play and process, notice that it's dulling the sound. It's kind of a cutting the high frequencies. It's because, of course, it's doing a little bit of cut, but that's fine. Now, if you go to the opposite way, it means that this boost will start earlier. If I go up, notice that now we get high frequencies. And it's because we are boosting around the 4K. We're starting right there, and then we go up. All right, so let me start again. If I go to 3, we are starting with 3. And if we go all the way to 1, we are going to start to boost from the 1K. We do more process. We get it. Dark, brighter. Right, so this is what the mid-high tune will do. It's just kind of a boost. Right, so the main track was very, very loud, almost closer to 0 dBs. So I had to bring the volume down. Why? Well, because when you feed sound, whatever sound to this plugin, if the sound source that you're feeding is too loud, you're going to start clipping. And you have an overload indicator right here. So if I go up on the drive, notice that you can drive it. Depending on how much of the course you're doing, you're just going to start clipping right there. Right now, you're just not doing anything. If I start going up and maybe go there and maybe go there, notice that we start clipping. So there we go. We are overloading. And this one, this will give you, a little bit of saturation and distortion, which is not desirable in this plugin. And you can find that information on the manual. They will say, try to avoid going to overload as much as you can. Okay, so I have a plug inductor right here, and I bring this so we can see what we are doing right now. And now we are on kind of a default patch, so it's just not doing much. Now, the plugin is very reactive to whatever sound source you feed to the plugin. So this is just going to be just a tiny representation of what we are doing. So if I maybe go right here and we start doing processing, notice how it starts doing things. So if you do process, by default, when you're right here on the bass, on the soft and tight, it's just going to do, let me just maybe put it right here. So let me adjust this and bring the plugin. All right, so there we go. So when you start doing process, and notice that if I go right here, maybe you're going to leave it right there. I'm going to do process. Of course, it's going to do more and more and more. And if you go all the way up to max, it's just going to be a bit too much. So maybe you just need to try a little bit. Now, on the bass side, when you're in right at the middle, notice it's just kind of doing a tiny cut on the 50 hertz. That's why the bass is just kind of a decreasing a little bit. Yeah. So if you go towards this end, notice that what we'll do. We'll just dip a little bit more. In this case, let me just do the mid-high tune just right there so we can get something a little bit more normal. And I'm going to go up into drive right here, maybe on the output instead of drive. I'm going to go there and just do a little bit of output. There we go. So notice that it's doing that dip on the 50 hertz. And that's what it does. It's just going to dip. Now, of course, the compression will just pretty much do nothing, but it will just kind of normalize the sound. Now, if you go to the other way, it's kind of interesting. If you go to the other way, it will boost right here. It's just going to do a tiny boost and you have a bump right here. But it's kind of a boosting the subs. That's, what this is going to do. Whenever you go right here, it's just cutting and the subs are going to go lower, right? That's why you get that tight kind of a sound because you're kind of removing sub frequencies. And on the other one, you're just boosting it. So, this control is like that. You just get less subs, more subs. And it depends on how you're boosting. If you're boosting in this case, the compression is just going to compress it. So if I go right here to the process and I do more, of course, you're going to get much more, right? So in the case of the mid-high tune, notice that when it starts. So if I go all the way to the 22, you're just kind of cutting in this case. You're just cutting high frequencies and you're attempting to kind of start that boost around here. And of course, this is just air, but you're cutting essentially. So as soon as you start going up, the boost will start earlier, and now you're boosting around here. And that's why, you get that kind of a boost on the high frequencies. And that's how it works, So maybe if you go all the way to 22 and you start doing process and you notice that you're losing brilliance, or you're losing high end, well, maybe you're going to need to adjust the mid tune. Now, you do have something that it's going to be very related to the mid-high tune, which is going to be this section. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But remember that this one, maybe if you want to do it, or maybe just, kind of leave it right there whenever you do process, you're going to need to adjust this not to lose a lot of high end. So the LCEQ is essentially a boost on the high frequencies. And maybe you're thinking, well, all right, so why do we get this since we get the mid-high tune? And yeah, you're totally right, but this one works in a different way, and it has a different shape to, when we boost or we select something right there. So you can have this one totally disabled and just use this one just to add a little bit of boost to the highs. And notice how it works. If I go up on the intensity, it's just going to go and do a boost, but before it's going to do a tiny cut right here. And how it works, this selector, is that you can go to lows or you can go to highs, and this will adjust the position of where, we are starting pretty much to do it. And that's why you get, low and high. You're going to start lower, or you're going to start kind of doing that boost higher. And notice how this changes. And if I go all the way on the intensity, of course, it's going to be a little bit too much, and we are overloading at this point. But we can clearly see what this is doing. Now, on the manual, and of course it makes sense, then when you use this, let me just go to something normal right there and do no compression. You can use this control along with the mid-high tune. They could work together because they are just different. They bring you different shapes. So maybe you just want to shape this a little bit more, and notice how this is going to change. It's going to create kind of a tiny peak right there, and it's because I'm right there. And if I move this, it's just going to shape it on a different way. And again, I'm doing a lot. So maybe just go back on the intensity. And if I go up on the process, I'm going to be shaping whatever this one is doing. And if I go less, of course, this shape is going to completely change. Notice that I get just a bump right here. I get a tiny cut, and then I'm just, boosting nothing right there. If I go all the way down on the intensity, this just changes a lot. So that's what I'm telling you. If you're 22, maybe you would like to do a little bit of recover that, high end just a little bit, and just, do a little bit of boost right here. Now, this control, if we go to the track and we use it right there, it's just going to be very mild. So let's just, try to listen what we get on the track. So I'm going to go right here and do no process. Let's do some playing. And I'm going to go all the way down on the intensity. We don't get much. I'm doing process nothing. And I'm going to do intensity. So listen to the strings. They go very right, but it's not super aggressive. It's not that aggressive. It's just it's very subtle, which is a little bit weird, but it sounds cool. We can start higher, we can start lower. So I'm going to go down all the way down in the intensity, and I'm going to do a little bit of processing on this section, and we're going to try to, just kind of do something with this one. Because we know that maybe I'm going to do a little bit of bass just to get a bit more bassy sound, and that's fine. But if I'm on 22, it's just going to cut a lot of highs. So you can go right here and just bring a little bit of intensity just to recover. Off. Doing nothing, then on. And if you want more, of course, you can bring it right here. All right, so let's go back right here. Now, this button is just gonna turn it off and turn it back on, of course. It's very simple. So yeah, it's kind of a darker, and then we are at a lot of brightness. Right. So if you think about this, this is just a nice EQ that again kind of gives you this tiny curves, and you can of course use a combination of the compression and the bass just to get a little bit more low end, or maybe you can just tighten the low end. Maybe it's just very loose and you're just gonna get it down a little bit, or maybe compress it. And of course you can go up on the high frequencies and just boost them just a little bit, or use the LCEQ to get that tiny cut before boosting. Now, the other side of this is going to be like the third section, and it's the stereo expander. And this one is very simple. It's just a whitener plugin. And if you think whenever you get this plugin, and this, what happened to me when I bought it, that maybe this section was the most important. And no, this section is like the most common section you get on any of the plugins of Plugin Alliance. It's just an exterior expander. It's just gonna make it wider. That's all. The magic happens right here, and all the combinations of the knobs. This is where the magic happens. So if you're doing nothing right here, you're just gonna get exterior expansion, which is gonna make it wider. Right? It's just super wide, which is not good in this case. But maybe if you need a little bit of wideness, you just can get it. Now let me go and bring a little bit more bass. There we go. And make it maybe right there. Let me start over. And I'm gonna do off and on. It's kind of dark, right? Now, of course, at the same time, we are just boosting a little bit of. So you might need to control the output, just like a compressor. Yeah, but if we still do that, we are still, noticing. We still notice a difference. Right. So that's it. It's a very simple plugin. You get just very simple controls. Now you have a visual representation of what they do, and yeah, it's a great plugin. There's a reason why this is one of the classics from Plugin Alliance. It's because it gives you that extra something. Now, one thing that you need to know is that if your track, it's kind of a trash, you don't have a good sound, or you don't have a good vocal or guitar, whatever it is that you want to enhance, this will just not kind of fix it, right? It will not do magic. This is still an EQ with a nice cut, nice processing and very reactive to the sound. But at the end of the day, it's just a nice EQ with a stereo expander. So your sound source needs to be kind of cool, so you can enhance it and make it even cooler, right? But in terms of the plugin, it's just a great plugin. It's very simple to use, and it gives you that extra magic that maybe you're looking for whenever you want to kind of enhance something. Right, so that's it. Remember, of course, to like and subscribe, and add on the comments which plugin from Plugin Alliance you would like me to cover next, because I just, do this based on your opinions and your requests. So, all right, so remember to leave a comment, and if you have the money and you can afford it and you would like to buy me a coffee, you can go and check Patreon and maybe just buy 1 month subscription, then maybe the cheapest one, and just get me a coffee. And you're going to get some things in return, like, patches and samples and all of that. All right, so see you on the next one.